It is important to note that prions are not viruses. Prions are what are called proteinaceous infectious particles. They are proteins that infect things. They are infective proteins. So if we think about that for a minute, we've spent the last several hours learning about viruses, fungi, bacteria, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells that infect our human body. Those have DNA and RNA and lipid and protein, and those organisms infect and cause disease in our human body. Prions are just proteins. They are just proteins that can cause disease. Typically in human beings, prions cause disease in the central nervous system, the CNS, including the brain and spinal cord. Luckily for us, they are very rare diseases. But nevertheless, we're going to spend some time going over them so you're ready for your Step 1 exam. Prions are particles that are composed of proteins that are no different in primary amino acid sequence from normal, healthy proteins found all over our bodies. So wait a minute, Kevin. How can the same protein both be normal and abnormal if it is made up by the same amino acids? How can it be both healthy and infectious? How does that make any sense? Well, although these proteins do share the same primary amino acid sequence, the prion diseases, the difference between is the secondary structure. In normal proteins, they're composed mostly of alpha helical structures. In the abnormal proteins that make up the prion diseases, these alpha helical structures have converted into beta pleated sheets. So the key difference here between the normal and the abnormal is that the abnormal proteins that make up the prion diseases are composed primarily of beta pleated sheets. So now to go over some confusing and somewhat fancy terminology. Prion diseases, or the normal proteins that can possibly turn into the dangerous prions, are known as normal PRP-C. C standing for cellular. So these are the proteins that are found in normal cells. Abnormal proteins, or the ones that make up the prions, are dubbed abnormal PRP-SC. So that's a key difference. So how do we form these abnormal proteins, or these prion proteins? Well, what happens is that the alpha helical structures are somehow converted into beta pleated sheets. Instead of helices, the proteins are now flatter sheets. They're not corkscrew pasta, they're flat, lasagna-like noodles. This lasagna form of prion is known as the PRP-SC. What happens is when they infect the brain, they can cause what's called spongiform encephalopathies. An important point to understand about prion diseases is that once these abnormal proteins get into the bloodstream and get into our cells, they actually interact with the normal proteins and cause an increased number of the abnormal protein. So the abnormal protein actually causes the neighboring normal protein to become abnormal, and these cause the spongiform encephalopathy. So it's this interaction between PRP-SC and PRP-C that causes an increase in the PRP-SC, ultimately resulting in the spongiform encephalopathies. The main prion diseases that are worth knowing for your Step 1 exam is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, CJD, and this is a human-related disease that's related to the mad cow disease in cows. There's also Gershman-Straussler-Scheinker syndrome, which is a familial protein disease that is very rare. And then finally, there's Kuru. CJD and Kuru are acquired by ingestion of prion-containing tissue, beef in the case of CJD, and human tissue in the case of Kuru. These diseases cause impaired brain function, memory changes, alterations of personalities, and even can cause movement abnormalities. The key feature of prion diseases is dementia that develops very rapidly. The way they will test you this on Step 1 is by giving you a case vignette where a patient who was recently very with it mentally begins to show signs of dementia after periods of just weeks to months. In contrast, say in Alzheimer's dementia, the dementia in that form of Alzheimer's takes many years and years to progress. It's slow, insidious cognitive decline. On the other hand, in prion diseases, we see a rapid development of dementia that is going to be your key diagnostic feature of the prion diseases.